When you think of Walt Disney, what comes to mind? Probably that warm, friendly TV host, right? A creative genius, maybe even a kindly Uncle Walt. But you know, the real story is, well, it's a whole lot more complicated, and honestly, a lot darker than you might think. Because the man who built the happiest place on Earth was, by many accounts, wrestling with some pretty serious demons of his own.
His own animators, the people who worked closest with him, had a secret code for when he was coming. It was from the movie Bambi. Man is in the forest. Just think about that. It was a warning that danger was near. That's because when Walt Disney walked down the hall, it wasn't a friendly visit from your creative partner. It was the arrival of the boss, a force of nature, whose presence could just suck the air out of a room. This was not the Uncle Walt the public knew, not even close.
And this incredible gap between the public image and the private reality, that's really the heart of his story. I mean, on one hand, the world saw this celebrated genius, the winner of more Oscars than anyone in history, the guy who created a global empire of joy. But behind the scenes, he was described as demanding, relentless, a perfectionist. One colleague even said he had a very dark soul and spent his entire life fighting against that darkness.
So to really understand this contradiction, we have to go back, way back, to the beginning. Before the fame, before the mouse, there was just a young guy from the Midwest with this raw, unfocused ambition to simply, as he put it, make a name for himself.
And right out of the gate, he hits a wall. One of his first jobs was at a newspaper where he was famously fired for, get this, a lack of imagination. Can you believe that? But instead of discouraging him, that rejection just lit a fire under him. He got drawn into the brand new world of animation, an industry so young there were no rules, no establishment. It was the perfect place for an outsider to make his mark.
But his path was just a series of brutal failures. He starts his first animation company, Laugh-O-Grams, and just 2 years later, it goes bankrupt. He lands in Hollywood thinking he'll direct live-action movies, but he can't get a job anywhere. And then, just when he finally gets a hit with this character named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, poof, he loses the rights to him completely. In fact, when he first showed up in Los Angeles after his company collapsed, this is literally all he had to his name, $40, and a dream that was going nowhere fast. He was sleeping in his office and taking baths at the train station. I mean, this was absolute rock bottom.
Now that loss of Oswald the Rabbit, that wasn't just a business failure. It was a deep, personal betrayal that almost ended his career before it even really started. But it was right here, in this moment of total desperation, that one of the most iconic characters in history was born.
So here's what happened. His own distributor, this guy named Charles Mintz, secretly goes behind his back and hires away almost all of Disney's animators. Then he drops the bomb. Turns out Mintz, not Disney, owned the rights to Oswald all along. He stole Walt's character and his entire creative team, leaving him with basically nothing except his one most loyal artist, a guy named Ub Iwerks.
So there he is, on this long, lonely train ride back to California, feeling totally defeated, and he just starts sketching. He comes up with this simple little mouse character. And his first name idea? Mortimer Mouse? Yeah. Thankfully, his wife Lillian told him that was, quote, terrible, and suggested something a little friendlier, Mickey. And just like that, an icon was born from the ashes of failure.
Okay, so having a new character is one thing, but actually competing is another. He's up against these big studios with way more money and resources. Disney realized his only chance was to out-innovate everybody, and that meant taking massive, crazy risks. For Mickey's third cartoon, Steamboat Willie, Walt bet the entire farm on this brand new, incredibly expensive technology, synchronized sound. At the time, this was a huge gamble. Nobody knew if the cost would ever pay off. But the result? It was an absolute sensation. The music and the sound effects weren't just background noise, they were part of the jokes, perfectly timed to the action on screen. The public had never seen anything like it.
The success of Mickey Mouse made the studio famous, but Walt, being Walt, was already restless. He'd proven cartoons could make people laugh, sure, but then he started asking this far more ambitious, almost absurd question for the time. Could a drawing actually make an audience cry?
His answer to that question was the world's first feature-length animated film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And Hollywood was merciless. They called it Disney's folly, convinced that nobody would ever pay to sit through a 90-minute cartoon. But Walt's passion was just infectious. He inspired this almost fanatical devotion in his team, who were willing to do anything to bring his vision to life.
The financial risk was just astronomical. The film's final budget ballooned to $1.5 million, which was 6 times the original estimate. And remember, this was during the Great Depression. The cost nearly bankrupted the entire studio before the film was even finished. But Disney's folly became the triumph of his career. In its first run alone, the film brought in $8 million, making it the highest-grossing film of all time back then. It didn't just save the company, it fundamentally changed filmmaking forever. And the answer to his question was a resounding yes. A drawing could, in fact, make an audience cry.
So with all the success and money from Snow White, Walt finally had the cash to build the studio of his dreams. He imagined this perfect creative campus, a little utopian world designed to be a home for his artists. But this perfect family, it was about to fracture. I mean, this new studio in Burbank was incredible. Every animator had their own big, air-conditioned office. There was a restaurant, a gym, volleyball courts, even an in-house art school. Walt genuinely believed he was creating a perfect community, that this was his gift to the employees he considered his family. But here's the thing, not everyone felt like they were part of the family. A really rigid hierarchy started to form. And when people started getting restless, Walt gave a speech that revealed this very paternalistic, top-down view of the world. He basically said that the top talent deserved special privileges, a view that did not go over well with the lower-level artists working grueling hours for little pay. And in 1941, the family just broke apart. Hundreds of his artists went on strike. Their demands were pretty straightforward: fair pay, recognition for their work, and the right to unionize. But to Walt, this wasn't a labor dispute. It was a personal betrayal. He could not understand why his family would turn on him like this. The perfect little kingdom was now bitterly divided. The strike was eventually settled, but something inside Walt just broke. The man who came back to the studio was different, more suspicious, more guarded. That experience really solidified the two competing sides of his personality, the visionary and the tyrant. This quote from one of his animators just captures the two Walts perfectly. He could be this incredibly inspiring mentor, your warmest friend, someone who pushed you to create art you never dreamed you could. But if you crossed him, that warmth could vanish in a second, replaced by a ruthless, unforgiving boss.
So what's his legacy, really? Was he the genius who built a dream and created a new art form? Or was he a tyrant who demanded perfection at any and all costs? The truth about the man behind the magic is, you probably can't have one without the other.